Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
Welcome back to the Stockwell Roche Show. I'm Jason Stockwell with RE/MAX Results.
Josh Roche, RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
We're talking Relocation Nation, and before we left on break, we had an example. Now, this could really happen, folks. We had an example, but
yeah, I'm big.
Josh is being recruited to move to Hawaii to compete with the Hawaii Life. If anybody watched that show, he's competing with them.
Life.
So they're going to throw him on an island in Hawaii. We don't know which one.
Hopefully one with
Probably
people.
a little one.
Yeah, hopefully one with people. But and then Doug is a relocation specialist and is walking us through the process of what Josh is going to go through. So we left off with he's going to be contacted, and then people are going to come to his current house here, kind of interview him and ask questions.
Typically, then two agents, two different brokers are going to be selected to meet with Josh. They're going to fill out some paperwork on the home, get it back to the relocation company, and then they're going to review that with Josh, and then Josh is going to select the broker,
the RE/MAX agent, right?
that he feels
Okay,
is
good.
best.
Okay.
Correct.
It'd probably be RE/MAX.
That's right. That's right. And so now Josh is going to get his house on the market. He and his family or whomever is going to be going off to Hawaii and doing a house hunting trip. They're going to meet an agent over in Hawaii that's been selected for them by the relocation company. They're going to look at homes there. And then more than likely, they're going to get some sort of home sale program when they sell their house. Okay, so they're going to get some benefits from the corporation when they sell their house. And typically what happens is only about 10% of the companies have no relocation benefit for your home sale. But typically what's going to happen is that they're going to put their house on the market, and somebody's going to come in and make an offer on that house. And when they do, they're really negotiating verbally. Okay, it's going to get a little in the weeds here. But they're going to negotiate verbally with that outside buyer, and Josh is not going to sign anything because what's going to happen is his corporation or his relocation company that he's working with is actually become the seller of that house to that buyer.
Got it.
Okay. So then what happens? So now they've come to terms. The relocation company signed off on that contract. Now what happens is that Josh's company, they pay him, they buy him out at that agreed upon purchase price.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there are basically it's a cash sale. So there's no commission or no closing costs in that. So the transferee walks away netting more money.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's a great.
So that's my question on that. Is there? I know moving. I'm a real estate agent. Sell houses. People move all the time. I personally do not like moving. There are probably people that just don't like moving. It sucks. So if you're moving and you're relocating to another place, and you're gonna pay costs to sell your house, you're relocating yourself or your loved ones or your family and everybody. So there can be. Is there? I know there's totally negotiable. I imagine with the company, but there's incentives not only for the sale of your home where you don't pay costs,
Right.
but is there? I mean, it's just kind of open ended from 0 to X number of incentive. I mean, depending upon your value.
Sure depends on the corporation.
It depends on the corporation in terms on the tier, the level of the transferee. Somebody at
I'd
tier
be like
5.
a low tier.
Josh is a low.
The packages,
Well,
right?
you're getting a lump sum, and they're sending
Josh
you
is
off.
actually paying a bunch of money to be relocated to Hawaii.
I gotta pay him.
So it's the relocation packages. With each company, they develop a program of
Right.
the level of the employee, like you said.
Right.
And if it's a vice president, they may have $30,000 or whatever.
Right. They might.
And
right.
if it's a manager, it could be $10,000.
It can vary in assistance for and then the moving's. I mean, all that stuff can be covered. The moving, the real estate commission. So you can actually come out better. So when I hear you, Doug, say is in certain circumstances you can come out better from a net proceeds as a seller than if you just sold your house yourself.
Right, because the corporation is going to buy you out. Like I said, it's going to be kind of a cash sale to you. No closing costs, no commissions. And then that corporation is ultimately going to sell it to the outside buyer.
Okay.
And then the corporation is paying the commission and the
They're paying
closing
the cost,
costs.
yes.
So the nice thing for both parties there is it's a business expense for the corporation when they pay those items. You, the transferee, have walked away with this kind of little bit more capital, more money, and it's coming at you tax-free. Okay, it's not going to be considered income to you.
Because it was your primary residence. And you also have the ease and the coordination, right? So you're not so with the move and moving all your things, movers typically come in and will do that for you.
Right.
So Diane, myself, Dawn on our team have dealt with relocation, worked with relocation, love working with relocation, because there's a process and a system. It's very, very well organized most of the time. I've seen, right, Doug?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, there's a real protocol. And I should back up. I shouldn't say that money's necessarily tax-free. When they're netting that extra money when they sell their house to the corporation, it's not showing up as income. Okay.
I got it.
Commission and the
Right.
closing
Yes.
costs. Because if they were to submit an expense for commission and closing costs, it would be income to the transferee.
Oh, I get you.
Right.
Yes,
Yes.
if you're trying to get a reimbursement on it or something like that.
Right. So I just want to clarify that.
Yep, that makes sense. So the process is very, very streamlined. They've been doing this a long time. Doug has, and all the companies that he works with has, and they know what they're doing. I have a question from an employee standpoint or someone at a company. Let's say you're at a company and you do want to
Move
get
to Hawaii.
relocated. Yeah, and you want to get relocated. I mean, other than just seeking out
Well,
the
hopefully
promotion.
there's a position there.
Yeah, you got to
Right.
seek out a position. I mean, all that's dependent on the company. But is there kind of a little cat and mouse negotiation? I mean, that's what I look at it as, maybe as potentially saying, "Oh, I want to go there, but I don't want to say I want to go there openly because then I'm not maybe going to get the relocation package." Or is it something that you're seeing the companies just helping pretty much with every relocation?
I see them helping with most relocations. Now, again, it could be a lump sum, okay, where they're going to say, okay, here's $15,000, get to California,
You figure it out yourself,
right.
basically.
But that's where realtors really play an important part, because the realtor can probably help them manage that money better. Maybe,
Maximize it. Yes,
yeah,
that makes
so
sense.
spent well and wisely.
Yep.
But I think, I don't think if there's an opening in another area, I don't think there's any kind of cat and mouse game. I think, there's a certain, maybe the newer generation entering the workforce isn't as keen on moving.
Right.
So maybe you're a millennial or something, and you see something over there you want to go for. Millennials are more likely to move than, the what do we call them, the next ones? The
X.
Generation
and Y,
X.
and yeah.
I think Josh, myself, we're in
Gen X.
Generation
Yeah,
X.
we're X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We love it. No,
Yeah, it's been great.
But isn't there a period of time too, Doug, where the corporations will say, if your house doesn't sell within 2 years period of time, we'll buy it back from you for X, Y, Z.
There are on those home sale programs. There are programs where they'll have two appraisers come out, and they will meet with you before you put your home on the market. They'll establish a price, and they'll average the price of those the values of those two appraisals, and that becomes kind of your. They don't like to use this term, but it becomes your buyout price. They want you to sell the house. They don't want you to think in terms of buying, getting bought out.
Yeah.
So I don't, I'd say maybe 30 or 40% of folks fall into that category, and the rest of the people have to kind of market their home until it sells. And then that whole, we talked about before, that whole home sale program comes into play where the corporation
play,
buys
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But typically you have 12 months to use up your relocation benefits. So, if you haven't sold your house yet or haven't put it on the market, 10 months into this deal, you got to get moving.
Yeah, I've seen sometimes
Yeah.
where it's been 6 months, and they've had an option like that where the company gave
Yeah.
them a 6-month window. We've seen people relocate from Florida to Oregon for tech jobs, to California, Arizona, New York. So we've dealt a lot with relocation, seen relocation on both sides, from the buyer side and the seller side, and it's definitely way back. As Doug said, the market for that is back. The companies are
Yep.
spending money. They have money, and the homeowners or the employees that own a home or a condo or a townhome have the ability to sell. It would have been hard to know 2009 to say, yeah, I'll move, but you got to front me $60,000 to cover my loss on my house.
or I talked to people at that time period who really didn't want to move, but their choice was either they move or they don't have a job.
Right.
So that's never fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, take this move or we don't have a job for you anymore. So
Yeah,
that's not fun.
and that's a tough position to be in too. So
But getting back real quickly, when you do relocate, it's really important, I think, to use a real estate agent, a realtor that is relocation experienced,
Yep.
because this is a whole different ball game. Relocation, it's a whole different home sale program than just moving from
A to B.
A to B, and it takes somebody who's been there before, has done it before, and maybe there's a agent that's coming in making an offer on this relocation house that isn't familiar with relocation and gets a little thrown by the process and why it takes a little bit longer. So you need somebody who can explain that and keep everybody calm and that it's all going to happen.
And the paperwork too. There's a lot more because you're dealing with a third party, so it's not just you, the homeowners, that are involved saying, "Yeah, we're going to make every decision." And the agent's being checked and made sure that they're being accountable by the relocation company on behalf of the sellers. So you're dealing with three people, and they all have their checks and balances. And there's a lot of documentation and paperwork and updates that the relocation company needs to be put into their system. So
The one I just closed, literally the purchase agreement was almost 3 times the size of a normal PA because you had the relocation company's stuff in there. You had the
Minnesota purchase agreement and all the it's I don't want to say bank owned, but you're dealing with a third party entity that has a lot of their own lawyers and paperwork and needs to follow the protocol for that.
Exactly.
So we'll be back with more on relocation, and we're going to be talking about millennials. So that's maybe your grandkids, kids. When we get back. I'm Jason Stockwell with Remax Results.
Josh O'Shea, Remax Advantage Plus.
We'll be back soon.
I'm moving out.